Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another lesson. We're going from zero to producer in 90 days with Ableton Live. Big thanks to Ableton Live for extending their free trial up to 90 days while everyone's in quarantine so we can get the good knowledge into your brain so you can start making better music today. Today is all about a technique called mud pies. First, let's review what we talked about in the last video. We were looking at the drum rack instrument. We were talking about how tempo and rhythms can affect the genre of the song that you're making. We looked at a technique called audio to MIDI where you can drag a drum recording into a drum rack MIDI track and it will transform that audio into MIDI information. You can customize it from there. And we talked a little bit about drum composition, how to start with a small idea, 1 or 2 bars, and expand that into a bigger idea. All right, mud pies, let's dive into it. This is a weird technique. It's a technique where we're going to take one MIDI clip and we're going to record a ton of different instruments all playing the clip. And then we're going to stitch together those recordings of all those different instruments. And we're going to make one new sound that's kind of morphing and glitchy and weird. Depending on what sounds we use, we can get tons of different results. The thing that I like about this is that it's really unique. It takes a little bit of setting up, and there's potentially a lot of editing involved if you're doing like really, really big mud pie projects. But the advantage is that it makes it really easy for you to overcome that writer's block that we all experience from time to time. And just keep in mind that because this is an experimental technique, there's not as many like hard, fast rules. We kind of just have to do a little bit of trial and error to make this thing work. But let's talk about how we can set it up. So the first thing that we need is we need a MIDI clip with some notes and some chords. I've got one here. I've pre-prepped a little lo-fi hip-hop groove that sounds like this. It just loops and loops and loops and loops. So what we're going to do, I like the drums and I like the chords, but the piano sound is like just too boring. For me, I love experimental music. I love lots of interesting sounds coming in and out of the composition. So we're going to use this technique to achieve that. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to create our actual mud pie track. All I did was I took this audio clip of this piano instrument and I just put it here on an empty MIDI track. I'm going to go through here and grab an instrument. I think for now, let's start with wavetable. And let's start with the guitar and plucked category. A couple different sounds there. I'm just going to drag one onto that track. The next thing that we need is this thing that's called a resample track. So all this is a regular audio track. We talked about the other day when we were getting into our video about recording audio, that you've got a bunch of different inputs depending on what your sound card setting is. But every audio track has this input that's called resampling. What resampling does is it just records whatever sound Ableton is playing. So you can see if we were to go here and record our piano with it soloed, our resample track just records that piano. If we were to do the same thing, but also play our drums and record that. Then we solo our resample track. Zoom in here, you can see that it records the piano and the drums together on one track. Nice and easy. I'm going to go ahead and undo that, and we'll go back over here to our instrument. So what we want to do is isolate these chords, and we want to change the preset and cycle through a bunch of different presets, and we're just going to keep this loop going. I just selected my chords here and pressed Command L to turn this loop region on. And I'm just going to record, and I'm going to keep hot swap on, and I'm just going to go through and record a bunch of different sounds. And some of them are going to get cut off, and some of them are going to click and pop and get kind of glitchy and whatever, and it's all good. Like some of that stuff actually ends up helping give us more unique results. We've got our first preset on here, pressing the record button. And I'm just going to keep cycling through. go down here to the mallets menu. Just grab a few. All right, so that's cool for now. If we double click on here and zoom all the way out, you'll see we've got a bunch of different clips here. We can cycle through with our loop region if we turn looping on this clip, and we can look at just like different chunks of this. Bunch of different weird sounds. That's all good. So all of these things for the most part came from this guitar and plucked, or this mallets menu here. So I'm going to just go ahead for now, and I'm going to drag this down onto this new audio track called Pluck. I'm going to turn it off, and I'm just going to save it for later. And now we're going to grab another different instrument on our MudPie track. We're no longer going to be working with wavetable. We're just going to grab a different synth. Operator, probably. That's a real popular one. So we already did some Pluck stuff. Now I want to do some pad stuff. I want to layer a couple different sounds. So let's go here to the pad menu. You can hear these are all kind of like softer, elongated notes. So let's just go down the list. Everything's set up. Make sure we're recording. Make sure I drag that here onto our MudPie track. I've got everything set up the right way. MudPie track is playing the sound. Resample is good to go. Record enabled. Okay, I think we can start recording. So let's hit the record arrangement button. And again, I'm just gonna hit this hot swap button and just go down the list. Huh, something got funky here. There we go, now it's playing again. All right, that's probably enough for the pad category. We can go ahead and double click in here and zoom out. It looks like we got a bunch of different stuff to work with there. So I'll go ahead and drag that down to pad. I'm just going to shrink that and mute that. And then I had one other one created here called keys. So let's go through, and maybe with this one we can try electric. Some kind of cool sounds in there. We'll go ahead and drag one of those presets here onto our MudPie chords. Got everything set up. Resample track is ready to go. All the other two tracks are muted, so we're just hearing these chords. All right, now let's record one last one, and we'll cycle through again. Cool, there's a couple different options for the keys one. Double click on our clip, zoom out. A couple different chords we can work with. Sweet. Awesome, so we can go ahead and turn these things off for now. We've recorded multiple instruments, we recorded multiple types of sounds, and we've put them all on individual tracks here as well. So now the next thing that we need to do is we need to refine this. The making of the mud pie is just like a big old hunk of mud in the ground. You want to make sure that we shape that thing up so it's looking nice. A couple different things we're going to need to do. First of all, we're going to need to go through each one of the tracks, and we're going to need to find the pieces that we like. So let's see if we can find. This loop is 4 bars long, so let's see if we can find like an 8 bars worth of loops. So each chord we're going to need to find 2 of. We might be able to loop a couple different things. We might be able to fade some into each other. But let's listen first to the plucks that we just recorded. I've got this loop on, so all we have to do to listen to our different runs through of those chords is just grab this loop region and just move it over 4 bars at a time. I kind of liked that one. It like switched halfway through and got sort of a weird glitch sound. So I'll make a new track here and I'll call this pluck edit. And then anytime we hear something we like, we're just going to select it and we're going to hold our Alt key and we're going to drag a copy down of it. All right, so that's our first 4 bars of options. Now let's scroll over starting at bar 5. That first one was kind of cool. Maybe we'll grab that one. All right, that's fine for now. Drag it over another 4 bars and let's listen to what we got next. Oh, I like that one a lot. Let's steal that one. That kind of had the same thing as the first one, but again, we're going to grab a couple extra bars. So that third chord I'm going to put over here. That one was a little loud. I didn't really like the sound of it as much. So let's scroll over to our next 4 bars. Definitely like that one. I clearly like changed the preset halfway through the chord and it got all glitchy and weird. Same thing there on that one. That can be our 4th chord on the second time that we hear this chord progression. Let's listen to the last one that we got. Like that one. Is that the end of it? I don't really like a whole lot of these 4th chords. So we're going to leave this space blank for now. But that's all good. We may find something from this pad or this keys category that fills that space later. All right, so let's turn our plucks off. Let's move on here to our pad. Same technique. We're just going to go through 4 bars at a time until we find what we like. We're going to copy and paste it down. Command T or Control T, and we'll call this new audio track Pad Edit. 1 chord at a time. Let's go down the list. Honestly, I really liked both of these, but I'm going to just separate them like this so that one shows up on the first loop and one on the second loop. Looks like something weird happened here and we didn't get any chords on that one, so let's just move on. I don't like the sound of that one so much, but the shape of that waveform is super wild. Moving on, next 4 bars. That last chord was pretty good there. Maybe we can like mix and match here. And then I kind of liked this second one as well. So let's grab that and we'll have that be here in our second loop. Moving on, let's look at the next 4 bars of chords that we got. Definitely like these two ones here. So now we're just really looking for like one more chord. Unless we hear something really cool, then we'll replace something that we already got. Weird squeak. Don't like those ones as much. Next 4 bars. Definitely that can be the start of this. All right, so now we've got plenty of stuff here for the pads. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off, and then we'll move on to the keys. Same type of thing going on here. We're going to make a new track, rename it, keys, edit. Go through here, and not as many to look through on this one, which is kind of nice. So we'll just grab a couple that we like. Weird chord at the beginning. That one sounds a little bit better. Something funky happened there on the third one. Maybe a little bit basic sounding on the keys sounds, but that's okay. Here's a loud one. It's kind of cool. Maybe that can be, oops, I didn't mean to do it that way. I actually just want to select and hold the Alt key. That way it doesn't split it up, and it makes using the loop functionality here like a lot easier. Just make sure that looks okay. Just 4 more chords to listen through. Not a whole lot of options left. So I guess that's going to be our first chord. Guess that's going to be our third one. That's going to be our fourth one. So we're sort of like a little short on options, so I'm just going to copy these over. But again, we might not end up keeping all of these. So while this is probably going to sound like a massive mess of different sounds here, I'll turn all of these down just a little bit so I'm not blasting you. We've quickly grabbed all the ones that we want. We separated them by what type of sound they are. So plucks are all on one track, pads are all on one track, keys are all on one track. Let's press play and just listen to like the unedited, let's press play and listen to the unedited version of all of these different chords that we grabbed from a bunch of different instruments. Some interesting stuff on the third one. And then let's listen to our second half. So that's pretty cool. I love the like weird glitchy sounds. So the first thing that I notice here, our pads are just very, very loud. So I'm going to turn those down quite a bit. And then the other thing that I notice is like on our plucks track, the volume varies differently from pluck to pluck, like by a lot. So one of the first things that I would do to control that is in audio effects, multiband dynamics has a preset called OTT. If you're not familiar with OTT, this is like the sound of dance music pretty much for the last 15 or so years. It's a type of compressor. It just helps with some volume control, but it does it separately for the low frequencies than it does for the mid frequencies and the high frequencies. So you just get like more of a controlled sound than you would with other types of compressors. So now let's listen to that with that OTT on there. We should feel like we're getting all of those volume differences evened out. Definitely all feels like more the same volume now, which is good. Feels a little bit quieter overall, so I might just turn that output up a little bit. And then because these are really plucky sounds, I like to put a little bit of reverb on there. Audio effects, reverb. Let's go to the Hall presets, and let's just grab something. Medium Hall. Why not? Ooh, and let's make sure that we turn that dry wet down to somewhere between 20 and 30%. We can even take this reverb and we can put it before the OTT so that the reverb gets that volume control like the dry signal does. Definitely helps breathe life into those plucks. I might, now that it's compressed so much, I might even take the dry wet down a little bit. I might even take that decay time down a little bit. And then here on this part that says diffusion network, I'm just going to pull the high frequencies down so it's not so bright and like hissy sounding. All right, that's cool. A little bit of control over that pluck. Let's listen to our pad. Overall, not as much problems with the volume. I'm still going to put an OTT on there. I'm just going to copy it across from the pluck track, but I'm just going to take this amount like way down to like 25%. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make some crossfades. So you can see there's like these sections where we changed our presets and it just all gets kind of weird. I'm just going to select this and I'm going to press Command Alt F or Control Alt F if you're on PC, and it just makes a crossfade. And what that does is it takes like as if we were fading into this track at the same time that we're fading out of this track. It just makes those things overlap and so that it fades out of one while you're fading into another one. It'll help get rid of some of those clicks and pops. In fact, while we're here, I'm going to just go ahead and throw a tiny one on all of the tracks that we have as we're going across as fast as I can. Boop, 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 boop. Just to make sure we don't have any clicking or popping sounds. Just making a selection and using that crossfade shortcut, Command Alt F. Get through this super fast. Sometimes you can do it across multiple tracks, but I think they have to be next to each other. It's going fast anyways. That's all good. Put a little fade on the tail there. Now the pad is cool, but it just takes up a lot of space. Pads are like really dense and really loud a lot of the times, and they take up a lot of low and mid and high frequencies. So I'm going to go back to audio effects here. I'm going to grab an EQ8 and get back to a standard setting here. Grab this EQ8 and I'm going to just press play, and I'm going to look here on this visualizer where those frequency spikes start to show up. You can see like right around this area, we get like a big buildup of them. So I'm just going to grab one of these and just pull it down a little bit. And then I might take this number one. It looks like we got a big buildup of bass. Definitely don't need a lot of bass in a pad sound. So I'll just grab that low cut filter. Then I might make the high frequencies a little bit more and just take out some more of those mids just so that we're not fighting for space. Our plucks are going to have similar spikes on their frequency analyzing, and our keys are as well. So this will just help make sure that we can layer those sounds a little bit better. And sometimes those sounds are just a little too abrupt, so like a big long crossfade might help here. All right, that all sounds pretty clean. Let's move on to the keys. Might be cool to put a delay on these keys and do more of like an echoed thing, because by nature of a keyboard, it is kind of plucky sounding, and we've already got those plucks. So let's see if we can use audio effects to differentiate those a little bit. Grab our delay effect here. We'll do our OTT trick as well. We definitely have some different volumes here. This one here at the end is so different that I might go into the clip and actually drag the clip volume down because it's just way taller than the rest of them. Put that OTT on there. We can try it before or after the delay. Again, if it's before the delay, then it will just not compress the delay. But if it's after it, then everything gets compressed together. I kind of like that. Maybe we'll also, just because it's a little brighter now that it's got that OTT on there, we can just throw an auto filter on there, put it to 12 octave filter, and we'll just drag that down and get rid of a bunch of those high frequencies. We can even drag this LFO amount up a little bit so that this filter frequency moves. We can go here on the timing, and we'll just set it to a 1 bar rate. So it's going to move the same movements over the course of a bar. Got to dial in those knobs a little bit. Something like that might be pretty cool. Maybe one of these randomly, we can just double click here and press the reverse button on a few of them and just get them kind of weird and funky sounding. Sometimes that can be cool. All right, so now we have made a mud pie. Now what we got to do is we got to listen to all of these together, and we have to figure out like what doesn't need to be there, or is something taking up space where another thing should be more important and should be more audible. So like this first pluck, I think we can just do a big fade to make some more space for that. Maybe we'll even just fade it in over this whole chord. And because we've got this OTT, these fades are going to seem like not as extreme as they should be because it's really compressing the volume. We can do the same thing here, Command E to separate it. That last pluck is super crazy. I don't like that one as much. Maybe we'll just do a big, we'll separate these two clips here so that we can do a big long fade in. We'll even drag the curvature of that fade down some more. Much better. So now this is pretty cool sounding. Let's drag our drum beat over here and let's listen to it all together. All right, that is what goes into making a mud pie. So this is just an example that I did on the fly. Now it's time for me to do my little Food Network moment, and I'm actually going to show you one that I made in another song a couple days ago. Let's take a listen. There's an example of a finished mud pie. Same chord progression playing over and over and over, but all of the different sounds are what give it variation and make it interesting over time. Quick review, really easy to create lots of variation with a mud pie. As you saw in this video, it does require some editing. I tried to be pretty quick and dirty with it just to get the example out as fast as I could, but the reality is that editing and the time and the effort that you put into that is what is going to make your mud pie unique. Mud pie is just step one. Remember that audio effects and automation are still super powerful tools here. Big thanks everybody for watching this video. Hopefully this weird and strange and glitchy and trippy technique is something that you can find useful. If you've got some chords and you've got some cool parts of your song, but they're just like not quite popping and you want something a little stranger and a little more experimental and with a little more variation, mud pie is a great technique. The masters of the mud pie, of course, Il Gates and Mr. Bill, two producers that I look up to a lot and get a lot of knowledge from. Those guys have some great mud pie techniques. Thanks again to Ableton. 90 days of free Ableton Live 10 Suite. Hope you guys are spending this time making lots of music, and hopefully this video was useful. Until next time, have fun producing, stay positive, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.